So this is the guide to Firebrand support for WvW Zerging. So this is the build that we recommend for all beginner Firebrand players, where you run the Virtue's Trade line, and these are the utility skills that you use. There are two variations, and both variations use the same gear. It will be 4 minstrels with durability runes and staff, mace, shield. So we'll go over the staff set first. When you hear empowers by the commander, you want to use skill 4. Skill 4 is a heal skill and it also grants might, but for pre-engage, you use skill 4 for the might for the party. You can also use it mid-fight where it heals the group while granting more might for more damage output, which will help the group to finish the enemy sooner. With your skill 3, it's a symbol skill which grants swiftness to anyone up to 5 targets swiftness, and with your skill 2, it's a blast with a heal. So what you want to try to do as often as possible is to combo these two, as when you combo these two with skill 3, it will be a light field, and when you use skill 2, it's a blast. You will generate a area cleanse condition, so you will cleanse one condition up to 5 targets. So you want to combo these two as often as possible. And with skill 5, it's a CC where you drop a line, and if enemy walks through it, if there's stability, it removes 1 stack of stability, or if they do not have stability, they'll get knocked down. Okay, and your skill 1 is just a auto attack, doesn't do much damage as you're a full minstrel firebrand. So going over the mace shield set, your mace 2, it's a symbol and it grants regen, which is nice to have. And then your skill 3, when you or anyone within this radius gets hit, it will proc it, and it will share protection and ages to up to 5 targets, including yourself. Your shield 4 is a cone skill. It will damage enemies, but more importantly, it will grant ages and protection to up to 5 targets, including yourself. And with shield 5, it's a CC on the first cast, and it also blocks projectiles, but you don't want to stay in this for too long. You want to double press it for the second part of the skill where you detonate the shield to heal your teammates. So with your skill 1, it's nice as the third hit will heal your enemies, not your enemies, sorry, your teammates. So that covers your weapon skills. Okay, next up we'll go over your tome skills. Your most important tome would be your tome 3. When you're in tome 3, you want to prioritize using skill 4 and 5. If it's not a very hot fight, when I say hot, it kind of means that there's a lot of damage. It's okay to stay in your tome for an extended period of time to cast 4 and 5 again. But if it's a hot fight, what you kind of want to do is you want to use 4 and 5, and then you want to spam skill 1, or you can use skill 2 if you're in melee situation, or if it's a range situation and there's a lot of projectiles, you can use tome 3 to reflect. With the reflect, you can use it 2 ways. You can either put it on your group, or you can put it on the enemy. When you put it on the enemy, it will still reflect it back to them, and if you want to use it that way, it's a lot more effective to redirect the damage back at them. So general rule of thumb is, if it's a hot fight, you don't want to stay in your book skills for too long. Book skills being your F1, F2, F3. Because if you're in those book skills for too long, that means you do not have opportunity to use your weapon skills more often. As a firebrand, your weapon skills are very, very valuable. With your tome 2 skill, you want to use 5 first, and then you want to use 4. If your group needs a lot of healing, you want to use 5, 4, and then you want to spam 1. You don't really use 3, as there is not a whole lot of value behind it. If your group needs cleansing, you want to use skill 2 on your tome 2. With your skill 1, you only really use skill 3 for the CC. So because the cooldown is really long, after you use skill 3, you kind of want to get out of it and then go back to using your weapon skills. So that will cover your tome skills. Now to go over your utility skills, you have your heal skill, which grants ages, but because with the trait line that we run here with Liberator's Vow, when you use your heal skill, you grant quickness. Then next is Stand Your Ground. This is your biggest stability skill. which gives up to 5 targets, and it breaks stun for yourself within a radius. And then you have Hallowed Grounds, which is a pulsing stability skill. And then you have your Signal of Mercy. Signal of Mercy, basically, when you have a teammate that is down, you want to use this. One thing you want to try to do is that when you're casting this is, the moment you cast it, you kind of want to stay away from damage, as you can get interrupted of it if you don't have stability or ages. One thing you want to try to do as well is when you cast this, you want to use your heal skill to grant yourself quickness so that you cast the Signal of Mercy quicker. And finally, your Mantra of Liberation. This grants stability, but more importantly, it stun breaks you and your teammates. So if you see your teammates who are stuck, who get stuck in a area for way too long, there's a good chance that they are stunned. You want to walk over and just use the Mantra of Liberation. Okay. So one thing to note is that your mantra skills are actually very long ranged. I'll give you an example here. If I can find a NPC. Okay, so it's a 450 range. So this doesn't take. Nope, this doesn't take either. So on a teammate here, 450 range, you can see that they'll gain wounds. So you need to be very comfortable with knowing your range thresholds to use these skills. So the main role of a Firebrand is to keep stability uptime as high as possible. So you kind of want to spread out using your skills, your Q, your E, or your T. That's my skill binds. And you kind of want to rotate between your skill 3, your tome 3 as well, as this is your stability book as well. So one thing to note that is that with the Virtuous Trait Line Indomitable Courage, when you use skill 3 initially, you will gain 3 stacks of stability. So that's one thing to note. So when you open this, you get 3 stacks. You could wait a while before you use your skill 5, but we just go into book 3 and then you go for 5 immediately. And then you kind of space it out with your Stand Your Ground, your Hallowed Grounds, and your Mantra of Liberation. Ideally, you want to go into a fight with full stacks of Mantra of Liberation and your Mantra of Solace. So what you can do pre-fight to grant ages or some stat, you could use your Mantra of Liberation, but you kind of want to keep it at 2 stacks. You can use your shield to grant ages, or you can just start a fight with going to your book 3, which will give you 3 stacks of stability already, and then you use your 4 and 5 skills from your tome 3. And once those are done, you can start to use your Stand Your Ground. And if let's say you're in a melee situation where you're just grinding with enemies, you can use your Hallowed Grounds. And since you're going to stay in there, you're going to get stability. So ideally, you want to at least get 3 pulses of Hallowed Grounds to consider it to be worth it. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste if you're just going to get only 1 pulse of it. If you're only getting 1 pulse of it, then probably in the future, you want to look at the situation and think whether it's the best timing to use it. So this will cover this variation of the build. The other variation would be to run Valor. With Valor, you want to run middle, bottom, bottom. And you want to swap out Hallowed Grounds for Advance. So with this build, it becomes unique because of this trait and this trait here. With this trait, every time you block an attack, you will grant ages to nearby allies. And with this trait, every time an aegis that you grant gets procced, so basically the aegis you grant blocks something, it will reduce the cooldown of your tome 3. So with this trait line, you almost always want to start with your tome 3. You want to use 4-5 and then get out of it as soon as you can. Once you're out of it, you want to rotate between your skill 3, your skill 4 on your Mace Shield, and you want to use your Mantra of Solace and your Advance. But the thing is, you want to space it out, as there is an internal cooldown between ages being procced. It's approximately 1 second, so you don't want to go ahead and just spam your skills. You are not going to get the full value out of your ages. So you kind of want to use one skill, you want to wait a bit, use your next skill, wait a bit, use your Protector Strike, wait a bit, use your Shield skill, wait a bit. So as often as possible, you want to have your skill 3 and skill 4 on cooldown on your Mace Shield set. So if you are able to space out your Aegis well, it will essentially reduce the cooldown of your Tome 3 skill down to 20 seconds. Or near 20 seconds. So this build is recommended to players who are able to space out their stability skills well. That means you have a strong understanding of how a typical fight goes and how stability is consumed along the way and how Aegis is used along the way. And that will cover the Firebrand build.